Are you someone who's never thought about their ultimate purpose? Or maybe you have thought, who am I and what am I really supposed to achieve in life? In either case, whether you're in the first category, the I never think about it category, or the second category, the I do think about it category, I'm sure you'll find this presentation, Finding Our Purpose, interesting and hopefully a little helpful as well. Personally, I was in the first category until I came across the essence of yoga wisdom, Bhagavad Gita as it is, a book that I highly recommend and for which you'll find a link in the video description. That book inspired me and still inspires me today to seriously consider what is my real purpose. And it also gives me a compass by which to judge my progress towards that ultimate purpose, which for me is priceless. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, Finding Our Purpose, and please remember to leave your comments down below. Finding our purpose is more difficult than ever today with the progress of consumerism, technology, and social media, which, although intended to make life easier and more fulfilling, ultimately contribute to cosmic dislocation, a lack of understanding of who we are, where we are, and what we're supposed to be doing as human beings. Today we're all directly or indirectly educated and encouraged to work, buy, and consume. That's the path to happiness and fulfillment and our only real purpose. A thinking person considers, though, if that's true, why are people so dissatisfied with their working, their buying, and their consuming? Why are mental health issues more of a concern in the new millennium than physical health issues? Why is conflict and the threat of nuclear war more of a worry than ever? And why do we have to deal with things like the effects of climate change? These thinking people consider perhaps we've forgotten our real purpose. And they ask themselves, well, if working, buying, and consuming is not my real purpose, then what is? And how do I go about finding it? And so we begin our topic, Finding Our Purpose. We begin with an interesting observation by one of the most intelligent people in history. It's thought-provoking indeed. You know, in the West, we have built a large, beautiful ship. It has all the comforts in it, but one thing is missing. It has no compass and does not know where to go. What did he mean? And what inspired this observation? This brings us to our topic of purpose. What is purpose? And might it just be the missing link in the chain of genuine human progress? In the context of our life, purpose is what we're supposed to achieve in life, our goal. And it's also that which motivates us and sets our direction. Although we may have many goals, many purposes, we find that they are generally limited to just this lifetime. In the West particularly, we generally have no ultimate purpose, and therefore we also have no compass to tell us if we're ultimately sailing in the right direction. This has many individual, social, and ecological consequences, but even more importantly, a lack of ultimate purpose sets us up for a life without ultimate meaning, which is actually the most essential player in our quest for happiness. We're all born at some point in time and will die at some point in time, and the period in between our birth and our death we call life. What are we actually supposed to achieve in the span of time that we call life, the time in between our appearance and disappearance? What should be the end result of all our years of learning, working, relating, and experiencing. This is what we'll discuss today. Let's take a look at this quote again. You know, in the West we've built a large, beautiful ship. It has all the comforts in it, but one thing is missing. It has no compass and does not know where to go. Apparently, Einstein casually quipped this to a friend. What did he mean? Looking through the lens of Bhakti Yoga wisdom, we would say that in the West particularly, we focus so much on the superficial aspects of life, but miss the essence. In other words, we don't understand the importance of finding and actively pursuing ultimate purpose, and therefore we have no way of determining, either as individuals, societies, nations, or as a species, whether what we're doing is actually beneficial or not. What we're generally told is that if we try our best to passionately work, buy and consume, then when our death does come, we can consider our life more or less a success, even though we have no real understanding of who we are, where we are, why we're here, and what we're supposed to have achieved in the ultimate sense. And most people are satisfied with that. But a thinking person, called a Muni in Sanskrit, is not satisfied with this superficial thesis and wants to understand, what is my real purpose? First of all, yoga wisdom affirms that as human beings we do have an ultimate purpose, a purpose which is different from other species. And in order to get a deeper understanding of what that might be, Bhakti wisdom gives us a very interesting process. It directs us to look first at the purposes we share with other species and then try to understand if there's something that we can achieve that they can't. An easy way for me to do that is simply to take a walk down to the beach here in Wellington, of which there are many, and observe the seagulls. If you can't easily do that, you can watch some nature documentaries, or you can do it with your pet, if you have one, or the pet of a friend. And what we'll see if we do this is really quite interesting. We'll see, as Bhakti wisdom highlights, that all species of life have 4 basic purposes. Those purposes are eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And we'll notice that there's really nothing more going on in life for any species except the attempt to provide for and engage in these 4 activities. There's the eating purpose. We all have this purpose, as do other species. And although our choice of food and method of acquiring and consuming it may be different from other species, the purpose is the same, to fill the belly and gain energy. The seagull eats a shellfish on the ground, we eat in a restaurant, but the purpose is the same. The city that I live in here in New Zealand, Wellington, has around 1 eatery for every 240 Wellingtonians. That was when statistics were last taken in 2017. Probably there are a few more now. And it's interesting to note how human beings today also produce so much ecological chaos through what they eat, particularly a meat diet, which other species don't, regardless of their particular diet. Then we have the sleeping purpose. We also share this purpose of sleeping with other species. Other species sleep in the forest, or in the ocean, or in a tree, and we sleep generally in a bed, although this gentleman seems quite comfortable here sleeping on concrete. But again, the purpose is the same, to rest the body. In fact, although most people today have problems sleeping, in spite of so much facility for comfort, there are virtually no sleeping problems in nature. It's estimated that in the USA alone, 50 to 70 million people have ongoing sleep disorders, the most common being insomnia, sleep apnea, etc. Although this local gentleman doesn't seem to have any of those issues. Then we move on to mating. Again, as with other species, human beings, after a certain age, seek partners ultimately in order to mate. And although the process of acquiring a partner may be different from other species, the purpose is again the same, to bring children into the world and increase the population. Mating, of course, is a huge meditation for teenagers and adult human beings, with whole industries directly or indirectly revolving around the activity and activities that lead to the activity. Unlike other species, though, human beings are often against the natural products of mating, namely children, and therefore use various forms of contraception, which don't grow on trees, and hence we don't find that happening with the birds and the fish and the bees. And some even go to the extent of killing their children in the womb to avoid the responsibility of raising children. Finally, we have defending. Animals, birds, reptiles, insects, and fish defend themselves with their teeth, claws, poison, spikes, or by flying. And human beings try to achieve the same purpose with their fists, with guns, or nuclear weapons. The style may be different, but the purpose again is the same, to preserve life and property. Other species will not destroy the planet, though, in the name of defending themselves, as is likely with the nuclear weapons created by humans. Last year, the 9 largest nuclear powers spent $83 billion US. That's $150,000 per minute on upgrading their nuclear arsenals, including the development of space nukes. So human beings and all other species spend practically all their time between their birth and death, in other words, in that period that we call life, in these 4 activities, and activities that lead to or support them. We're either thinking about, planning for, working towards, or engaging in these purposes, and we often consider them ends in themselves. In other words, if we can successfully eat, sleep, mate, and defend ourselves, we more or less consider our life a success. As long as I can eat nicely, sleep nicely, mate nicely, and defend myself, life is good. The question the yogi asks, though, is, are these purposes we share with other species our real purposes, or our real purpose? Bhakti wisdom suggests that human beings have another purpose, one that is not attainable in any other species. Now, if that's true, where would we start to try to find that uniquely human purpose? Let's go back to the beach. We see that all things have their purpose based on their nature, what they are. In other words, because of the way something is, it fulfills a certain purpose. We can apply this logic to anything, but let's use a surfboard as an example. A surfboard exists or is created in such a way as to fulfill a specific purpose, to support a human being riding on waves. And to fulfill that purpose, it has a certain nature or certain characteristics. It exists in a certain way. It has certain dimensions. It's not small like a shoebox, or long like a telephone pole, or fat like a coffin. It has a specific shape. It's not a circle or a square or a cube or a figure eight. It's constructed of certain materials. It's not soft like a noodle or a yoga mat, and it can float, unlike a concrete block. Now, we can apply this same logic when we consider our real purpose. In other words, because we exist in a certain way, or are a certain way, we have a specific purpose. And if we can find out who or what we are, that purpose will become self-evident. So the Bhakti premise is, if we can find our identity, our real purpose will become obvious. So how would we find our identity? We can begin by just asking ourselves, am I my body, or am I something else? I don't know if you've ever asked yourself that before. It may seem like an unusual question, but the basic principle of any genuine non-material knowledge is that we're something different from our body. The body is just like an item of clothing for us, the self. This means that when we take a selfie, we're not actually photographing ourselves. We're simply photographing our body, which is just like a garment that we, the self, wear. We change bodies over our lifetime, from baby to child to teenager to adult to elderly, but we, the person inside the body, don't change. I can amputate my arm. I wouldn't really want to do that, but let's say my arm is amputated. But I'm still here. So obviously, I'm not my arm. I can cut my hair, but I'm still here, even though my hair is gone. So obviously, I'm not my hair. There's a complete change in all the physical and chemical elements of the body around every 7 years. But although that's happened to us probably several times, we're still here as the same person. Although the body we have now is completely different from the one that we had 7 years ago. So obviously, I'm something different from my body. Again, this means that when we take a selfie, we're not actually photographing us. We are photographing our body, which is exactly like a garment or an item of clothing that we wear. You can see in this picture on the right, garments in the shop window. There's the baggy pants, the dad fit pants, and various tops. They're items that we buy to wear, but they're obviously different from us, the person wearing them. Therefore, the Bhagavad Gita explains, as a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the self similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. Let's look at a situation that we can all relate to illustrate this. That of a funeral. When we attend a funeral, we often see tears and hear relatives and friends of the departed person saying things like, "He's gone," or "She's passed away." But the irony is that, especially if there's an open casket at the funeral, the person that they always saw and who responded to them is still there. So if the person they saw is still there in the coffin, the question is, who has passed away? Who has gone? If the body of the person is there, but we know that the person is gone, this means that they weren't their body, and that we never actually saw the real person. We only saw their body or covering garment. What's the difference between a live body and a dead one? there's actually no material difference, which is why there is no material method for bringing a dead body back to life. The actual difference between a live body and a dead body is consciousness, and that consciousness is non-material, again, which is why there is no material method for bringing a dead body back to life or back to consciousness. Again, the Bhagavad Gita helps us out here. That which pervades the entire body you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable self. What is it that pervades the entire body, and which, when missing, renders the body dead? It is consciousness, the symptom of the non-material self. When the self is in the body, there is consciousness, and when the self leaves the body, consciousness disappears, and we call the body dead, and after the appropriate formalities, want to get rid of it. The fact that consciousness can't be revived in a dead body, or even directly detected by any material means, should let us know that there's something non-material about us, as this text from the Bhagavad Gita confirms. So, what is death then? It's a change of dress for the non-material self. And what is birth? The acceptance of a new dress, a new body. Now, when we analyse the four purposes that we share with other species, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, we are analysing the purposes of the body. But if we're not the body, but consciousness, we need to go beyond these purposes and ask, what is the purpose of consciousness, the purpose of the self? If we can answer that, then we can understand our real purpose. We begin this final part of the video with another interesting quote from Albert Einstein, which gives us direction in understanding our ultimate purpose. No problem is solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. Our problem here is understanding our real purpose. So far we've identified the purposes of the body, which we share with other species, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And we've also understood that we are something different from the body, and therefore the purposes of the body are not our ultimate purposes. We are not our body, we are consciousness, which yoga wisdom affirms as the energy of the non-material self. Therefore, to come to a conclusion about our ultimate purpose, we have to answer the question, what is the purpose of consciousness? Now, to answer that question, we first have to answer another question, and that is, does our consciousness exist in of itself or in relation to something else? Because if our consciousness exists in of itself as the highest reality, then we could easily come up with our own purpose, and whatever we came up with would indeed be our purpose and would be perfect. But do we exist as completely independent entities? We can ask ourselves a few questions to come to a reasonable conclusion here. Is my consciousness everything? Is my consciousness nothing? Is my consciousness a part of something? Our experience and reason suggests that the last option is probably the most viable. I'm not everything. I'm not nothing. I'm a part of something. And at this point, we'll take some help again from Albert in this quote. Because Bhakti wisdom reveals that to actually understand our ultimate purpose, we need to take knowledge from a higher level, a higher consciousness. because our consciousness is limited and therefore it can't actually understand its ultimate purpose independently, being part of a greater reality. And therefore, Albert's advice here is very relevant. This principle is especially true when we try to tackle the problem of understanding our ultimate purpose. We need to take knowledge from a higher consciousness, a higher awareness than our own. The body we have is energy, the consciousness we have is energy. What is the source of these energies? The Bhakti premise is that if we can find that source and take knowledge from it, we can understand these energies properly and their ultimate purpose. So in Bhakti, we go to the highest level by taking information from our supreme source, the complete whole that we're a part of. And that source reveals that our ultimate purpose as conscious parts of the complete whole is to cooperate with the purpose of the whole. In other words, as individual consciousness, we are conscious cooperators, and our ultimate purpose is to cooperate with the complete whole that we are a part of. Here we find another relevant text from the Bhagavad Gita. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the 6 senses which include the mind. We see here this hand is disconnected from the whole body, which means it's not in its natural position of cooperating with the whole that it's a part of. Now, if this hand were alive, this would cause all kinds of confusion and distress for the hand. Its life would be, at best, a struggle. And down here on the ground, that is the reality for those conscious parts that don't cooperate with the complete whole that they are a part of, as the Bhagavad Gita explains here. But if we could reconnect the hand to the body that it's a part of, all its problems would be solved. The struggle for independent existence would be over. In life, hands don't act independently as parts of the body, they cooperate with the whole body. That's the natural situation. Similarly, as parts of the complete whole, our purpose, our ultimate purpose, is to cooperate with, to act harmoniously with the whole. This is why we struggle to come up with our own ultimate purpose. This concept of coming up with our own purpose comes from the idea that we don't belong or exist in relation to anything greater than ourselves. Or in other words, the idea that we are everything. Obviously, if that were true, we wouldn't have to ask ourselves, what's my purpose? Because as everything, we would already know. By cooperating with the complete whole, we as parts of the whole find our ultimate purpose and simultaneously harmonize and cooperate with all beings who are also parts of that whole. This is the basic premise of Bhakti Yoga. And that harmonization, that cooperation, when done with love, being our ultimate purpose, provides ultimate meaning and fulfillment. That's the goal of yoga, to connect or reconnect to the complete whole that we're all a part of. So with this information, we have real direction, real purpose, a real goal to achieve with our human body, which in yoga wisdom is often compared to a boat. Now our human body or boat has a compass by which we can evaluate our progress towards our ultimate purpose. And we can note that Bhakti wisdom affirms that this human body is very rarely achieved, and its ultimate purpose, cooperating with the complete whole, is not achievable in any other body. And therefore, that wisdom calls us to action in this way. The human body, which can award all benefit in life, is automatically obtained by the laws of nature, although it is a very rare achievement. This human body can be compared to a perfectly constructed boat, having the authorized spiritual teacher as the captain and the essence of yoga wisdom as favorable winds impelling it on its course. Considering all these advantages, a human being who does not utilize his human life to cross the ocean of material existence and achieve ultimate purpose must be considered the killer of his own self. So, with this revolutionary knowledge, let's take advantage of this rare human body, this perfectly constructed boat, and help ourselves and others to achieve our ultimate purpose. Thank you for joining me today for this essential topic, finding our purpose. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope it inspires you to ask yourself, what is my real purpose, if you haven't already? And if you have, then I hope it continues to inspire you to ask yourself that question and actively pursue self-realization, the uniquely human calling. I have some new videos planned for the near future on topics such as understanding karma, unity, and ultimate connection. So if that sounds interesting to you and you're not already subscribed to the channel, feel free to go ahead and do that. You may also like to check out my systematic Bhagavad Gita course, Simple Gita, in the Simple Gita playlist. Thank you once again, and until next time, stay safe. Namaste.